Okay, thanks, Amanda.
Your last name wrong?
Yeah, it's Erica Warp.
Sorry.
It's okay. So like Star Trek, it's not a very common name, so I understand. No harm done.
It's autocorrect. I blame autocorrect.
Let's do that. Sounds good. Let's see. This is the clicker here?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, great. Well, thanks for the introduction, and thanks for inviting me to speak to you all today about brains. So what you're looking at here is a visualization of an actual recording of a human brain. And these electrical pulses that you're seeing, along with microscopic forms of chemical communication, are the mechanism by which you experience your entire world. So our brain allows us to see, hear, taste the environment around us, to feel really deep emotions, and to recall really vivid memories. The brain is also our command center for our actions. And by controlling our muscles, the brain allows us to move through the world, to dance, to sing, to pick up objects, manipulate them, and to communicate with each other. So in order to do this, the human brain has had to evolve to be extremely powerful. Well, what if we're able to extend the power of the human brain beyond the limitations of its biology with technology? What if we were able to, for example, control machines out in our world? Or perhaps walk through an environment that is a reflection of our mood, or that's actually designed to change our mood? And what if we knew each of our brains so well that we were able to optimize them effectively for productivity, health, and wellness? Well, to do all this, we'd want technology that could record our brain activity as we went about our daily lives, that we'd also need to know what this activity means. What does all this raw signal actually mean in terms of what we're thinking and feeling? And we would want devices, of course, that are ideally affordable and easy to wear. So technology to measure our brain activity, like MRI and EEG, has been around for quite some time. And these were originally designed for use in medicine and research. And though they do a really great job in those contexts, they have limitations outside of those use cases. So EEG, which is electroencephalography, measures voltage changes in the brain non-invasively from the scalp. And medical and research grade devices like the one that I'm showing here gets really great signals from a lot of different sources along the head, but these devices can take hours to set up. They cost tens of thousands of dollars. You can imagine they're quite uncomfortable. And the person that's wearing them is stuck in one place because they're tethered to a computer. So the need and desire to take this kind of technology out of the lab has spawned several companies that are creating more wearable solutions. So most notably, EMOTIV, of course. And this is our Insight headset. So with a price point in the hundreds and its ease of use and mobility, devices like this are really broadening the scope of what EEG is being used for today. So for example, researchers that have small budgets or that are in remote locations and don't have access to big facilities are able to use these devices. Or researchers that want to do research and record brain activity out of the lab, out in the real world. And this is really democratizing neuroscience research and allowing us to do things that we never have been able to do before. These devices are also allowing us to explore completely new applications for EEG beyond medicine and research. And this is because, largely, you don't have to be a neuroscientist to use these devices. For example, our systems come with software that can detect performance metrics and emotional states such as engagement, interest, focus, relaxation, stress. And this allows users and developers to easily access actionable information about the brain and put it to use right away. So this easy access, high quality brain data has inspired a powerful community of thousands of developers that are doing really awesome things with this technology. And so I wanted to show you a short video from IBM where Josh Carr from their Bluemix group is showing off one of these applications.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I distinctly remember watching the Star Wars film where Yoda brings the X-Wing out of the water. daughter, and I spent probably far too long than I'd like to admit staring at cars to see if I could move them. So to have that ability to control my own the Force in this instance, that's very cool. My name is Joshua Carr, and I am the technical liaison for IBM's Worldwide BlueMix. I'm always curious about the technology that's coming up, what's next. And recently, the headset that allows consumers essentially to read their own brain and understand what's going on inside your head was successfully funded, and I had the opportunity to get hold of one of the first that was shipped. The headset itself uses known technologies to look for specific markers, things like excitement and interest. What we can do is train our headset to recognize certain familiar commands that we think, and the device learns essentially that this means action A. Then we can send that data via Bluetooth off to the internet. But once it's there, what do we do with the data? There's an awful lot going on in my brain, I hope, and what can we do with that? And that's where IBM technology comes in. We process that data, we flow it through, and we make meaningful interactions using small amounts of code. So in this instance, what I'm doing is using a command and translating that into a push movement. I used the Java SDK that came with the EMOTIV Insight and the Java Internet of Things Foundation library, and essentially combined them together to publish the data to my Internet of Things service that sits on BlueMix. And I spun up a boilerplate that uses Node.js, and on top of that sits Node-RED, which is a wiring tool for the Internet of Things that allows you to easily and efficiently take data and run functions against it, sometimes with code and sometimes without having to explicitly write the code itself. In the films, they talk about the Force binding people together. In the near future, we're going to take a huge leap in feeling truly connected with other people. And for me, it was such an easy step to think about how can I use my brain to control robots around me.
So we really can have superpowers and control robots with our brains. So being able to tap into this complex machine that really is at the center of our existence opens up so many possibilities for exciting things that we can do that have really high impact on people's lives. So I like to spend the rest of the time talking about some of these applications that are going on currently or that are on the near horizon. So with this new technology, we can do a new kind of neuroscience research. So before, if you were in a hospital getting your brain scanned or recorded, it was because of something abnormal, either from injury or a disorder or disease. And in a scientific setting, if you were to have an EEG recording done, this was for a controlled experiment inside a laboratory setting. And what these devices do is they allow us to record a lot more from normal human brains and outside of the context of either a hospital or a lab. So just when people are doing everyday things. And this really changes the possibilities for experiments and what we can learn about our minds. Researchers also have the potential to tap into a large number of users. So with tens of thousands of people out there with these kinds of devices, rather than trying to convince 10 or 15 college students to come in and do your experiment, a researcher can use online communities, for example, to tap into a large number of people at one time. And so with all this usage, we're developing a really massive bank of brain data with increasingly broad demographics and with people doing a variety of different activities, like taking a walk, studying, being at work, meditating, exercising, walking through a conference, et cetera. And so there's no doubt that we're going to learn some really exciting new things about the human brain. And the more that we know, the more that we're going to be able to optimize our brains for performance and health and well-being. And we won't just be able to do this for brains as a whole, we'll be able to do this for individuals. So with these devices, for example, you could learn what part of the day you're most alert or most fatigued. You could learn what activities make you the most stressed, and perhaps what techniques or activities reduce your stress the best. So similar to what Jonathan was talking about with Spire, where you can really start to understand your body and hear your mind as part of your body in order to really improve it. And so also, the more that we understand about normal brains going about their normal daily business, the better that we could possibly detect when things are going wrong. So we have high hopes that we'll be able to, over time, start to find early markers for diseases, for example, like Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia, so that we can, really perhaps, let people have earlier treatment and sort of push back these really debilitating diseases. So, and then the other thing we can do is, because we're getting this information, this data in real time, we can also apply it in real time to change our environment or to guide our behaviors. So music applications like iTunes or Spotify, for example, could take in live brain data and suggest and feed in music that matches your mood or perhaps changes your mood in a certain way. It could also feed in, provide you music that it thinks that your particular brain would really like. And also wearable cameras could take pictures or tag pictures or videos when your brain reaches a certain level of excitement. So like when it sees something new or salient. And so that helps us sort of sift through the noise that a lot of this technology can start to give us. In the case of VR and AR, which we're talking about and thinking about a lot today, the possibilities are really huge. You can imagine being in an experience and walking through an environment where the weather matches your mood, or where your emotions are expressed to other people in the environment in completely new ways. There's also an opportunity to rethink how we level games. So instead of designing games with very specific levels that increase in difficulty, we can measure what a person's alertness or focus levels are during a given session and give them content that fits that well. And then, because we're getting constant feedback, like I say, this data is coming in live, we can constantly be iterating experiences. So for instance, a developer, if you're a VR developer, you want your experience to be really engaging. So you can see when are people most engaged in your experience, and let's feed them more of that kind of content. And we can not only iterate for engagement, we can make experiences that constantly are improving at making people more focused or making people more relaxed. So there's really a lot of potential here to create things that really resonate with people as a whole and also are personalized for individuals. And then there's also some really interesting applications in terms of safety that really do have the potential to save lives. There's rumors that BMW is working on a helmet that can assess fatigue levels. And so if a motorcyclist is a little too sleepy, it'll actually automatically adjust the motorcycle settings so that they're less likely to get in a crash. Or perhaps even suggest that the driver shouldn't even get on the bike at all. And there are also other jobs like surgeons or TSA agents where you could use a similar kind of safety check, or where these are jobs where you wouldn't want someone to be sleepy on the job. So it can help us sort of rethink how we do shift work and labor, really paying attention to what our brains are capable of at a certain time. And then like the BB-8 example, we can use this technology to control machines in our environment and bypass traditional user input devices like our hands or our voice or other mechanical controllers. And the way that we do this is we have a built-in software for mental commands. And the way that this works is that we take a picture of your brain for about 10 seconds while you're thinking a particular thought or a command, like move the robot forward. And then later on, the system does pattern recognition. And when it recognizes that similar pattern of electrical activity in your brain above a certain threshold, says, OK, you're thinking that thought again. Let's send that command. And then you can attach that to really anything that speaks in ones and zeros. So the possibilities are really, mostly up to the imagination there. So in the case of VR, AR, and more traditional gaming, we can use the mental commands as a new input device, right? So instead of having these really complicated manual controllers, we can replace some of these controllers with mental commands, or perhaps control totally new things with our minds. Some musicians are creating music using just their thoughts. Some artists are creating art using just their thoughts, which is really exciting. We were also enjoyed being part of a collaboration between Accenture and Philips, exploring the Internet of Things in the home and hooking up our devices to the television and to the lights so that you could, sit on your couch and turn on the TV and turn on your lights. And this may sound a little trivial to some of us, right? But if you have limited mobility, this can actually be really freeing and change, how you go about your daily life and what help that you need. Similarly, we see wheelchairs that are being hooked up to these devices, so people without the use of their arms and their legs can move a wheelchair forward, backward, left, and right effectively. And that's really exciting to see, because that really does give people a lot of freedom that they otherwise may not have. I'm also really excited about the Think to Speak project, which is giving people who can no longer speak or write a way to communicate again by directly using their thoughts and a computer interface. So all of these things are really exciting and either, like I said, being done or very much on the near horizon. So a couple years ago, I taught kids about neuroscience and told them about BCI and brain-computer interface and asked them what would they do with the technology. And it's always fun to hear what kids come up with. And there was one kid who wanted a mind-controlled dragon that would come to his robotic dragon that would come to his rescue at any point. And another kid wanted to be able to send her friends notes in class without letting her teachers know, like just with the power of her thoughts. And I have to remind myself that the possibilities for what we can apply this technology for isn't limitless, but it really does feel that way sometimes. So I'm really excited what our community of developers and scientists and partners are going to be doing with this technology, and to help us build a future where really anyone can be a neuroscientist and look at their own brain activity and understand it better, where we can really optimize our experiences to reach our own personal goals, be it performance or relaxation, for example. And where we can, control robots out in the world with our minds, not just because it's cool sounding and we all want to have the force, but because we can really have positive impact in a lot of different aspects. So thank you very much, and if there are a few minutes, I'd be happy to take some questions. So.
Thank you, Erica. There is time for questions. I think we have them
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, a question about experts or something that are experts in the field. Like, for example, like a military application, snipers who are particularly good at their tasks are very, very good at concentrating and focusing. Sports people who are doing things like taking penalty kicks and things. Have you looked at how the patterns of these the super performing individuals could be used to teach those of us who are mere mortals?
Yeah, definitely. We haven't done structured studies like looking at with controls and looking at different demographics like that, but just anecdotally, one of the things that I always find when we're out like demoing at conferences like this, for example, is that people that are really good at meditation practices are actually very good at like doing the mental commands. Because the mental commands takes learning both on the side of the algorithm will learn your brain and what you're trying to say to the computer over time, just as you will learn how to control your thoughts, which is really hard to do. And I imagine, maybe I just don't hang out around snipers and professional sports players enough, but I imagine it's similar in that case, where it's being able to reach certain mental states or and have certain thoughts at the expense of others, and that's definitely a skill that requires a lot of practice. And it's actually one of the things that you can do with this technology. One of someone we were working with, but who had a son with attention difficulties, is using the mental commands to learn to be more attentive, because he has to really focus on that task and use his mind to sort of shut out other thoughts. And though we weren't thinking of it as an attention trainer, you really can use it in that way. So in answer to your question, probably yes, though we haven't done the specific studies.
Erica, I'm interested to know, have you done any work in fashion at all?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of specific projects that we have, that we've done.
Couple of collaborations. One was with Kristen with Sensory. Right.
Okay, yeah.
Embedded it within high fashion and controlling LED lights based on your emotions and shifting. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, like saying, you can express emotions in different ways, and that's, you know, fashion is a lot about personal expression, right? And we think, oh, well, you've got, you know, your facial expressions. What more do you need? You can talk and, you know, smile when you know, want to express that happiness. But yeah, having these extra layers can, yeah, just change how we interact and get to know one another. But yeah, there's a lot of creative things that you can do. And like I said in the talk, like one of the things that's allowing artists and fashion designers, musicians to interact with these kinds of devices is that, you know, it's easy to plug into them and use the data because it's actionable. We don't just give you a dump of raw EEG data that, you know, unless you're an expert, you really can't decipher just by looking at it, you know, what it all means. And so, yeah, so it's a great tool to, you know, start to do things that have meaning pretty much right away. So.
Very neat. Any other questions? I have a question.
Yeah.
How long does it take to really master it? If I were to buy one tomorrow, how long would it take me to perfect the process?
It really varies per person, honestly. Like, there's some tricks in terms of, like, for me, I find that so the commands that or the thoughts that you think when you're training on commands can really be anything. You don't have to think, move the robot forward. You could, like, be thinking about a sound or something, just because maybe you're a very auditory person, and so you can conjure up those thoughts in your imagination more easily, right? So again, like if you have practice with things like meditation, where you're really have trained your mental control already, it's going to be a lot easier for you to pick it up. But definitely learning. I mean, you can try. I don't know if our booth is still set up, but yeah. So sometimes it's hard to do the first time, right? But it takes. You know, definitely having like one command is definitely achievable. A couple commands, you know, pretty relatively easily for most people. When you start to partition up and try to do like 4 different things, it's a little more complicated because you have to really be able to form discrete thoughts. But you know, we have people, like I said, using wheelchairs where they have multiple functions that they can control. And if it's something that you know, can impact your life to such a degree, like you will learn how to do it, right? And so luckily, you know, one of the reasons that this works is our brains are really plastic, and you know, we can, with enough feedback, which is what the system will give you, you know, okay, you're recreating that thought well, or you're not, and you can start to train your own brain just by practicing. So
what about on the actual research side, like as a researcher?
Uh-huh.
That back-end interface, that's more of what I was thinking.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about how hard it is or easy to do the mental commands. You mean how?
Managing like the back-end interface. I'm not sure.
Yeah. We have. I mean, we have SDKs and APIs and software that allows you to look at the raw data or the performance metrics and look at the visualizations of the activity on different maps. So it's you know, we try to make it as accessible as possible for both researchers and developers and prosumers. And then, you know, if there are things that are you a researcher? Yeah. So things that you feel would be really helpful, it's always good to just, you know, let us know, and it may be something that we're working on, or that you know. Yeah, but I mean, we try to make the data as accessible and usable as possible. So.